Hello, doing something a little bit different tonight. I'm also using my phone because we're in the kitchen and my camera doesn't seem to handle the dark light very well. Bread making. We make all our own bread in this house for two reasons really. One is we think it's cheaper, and the second reason is you're not getting all the funny ingredients they add into commercial bread. Like one of the big issues you get with mass-produced bread is there's a constant push to reduce the amount of ingredients to maintain the same size of loaf. So, the less flour, the less yeast, the less whatever else they put in that they can get away with, and maintain the same size of loaf is good for them because it makes more profit. So that's why commercial breads feel so light in your hand when compared to homemade bread. The density is completely different, and the big baking companies do employ a lot of scientists whose job is just to try and stretch the ingredients out a little bit further and get a little bit more profit from each loaf. So that's why we do it. So that's one of the reasons why we do it. But anyway, this video is about the economics of home baking. We've got a bread maker. It's a Ambiano brand, which we got from Aldi, the shop I seem to spend so much time in. It's a pretty decent bread maker. The second one we had, the last one, the hinge developed a bit of a fault, but this is a much more nicer luxury model. It was €60, so not a bad price actually for what it is. Yeah, because me and my wife were having a bit of a discussion, and we said it got around to, is it actually cheaper to make our own bread? We started thinking about it, and I did a few sums, and here they are. I may just put that up as a caption, but anyway, long story short, my bread recipe just uses flour, yeast, salt and oil. I don't put sugar in or anything else. The flour we get from Aldi, we get these 2 kilogram bags, and they cost £1.29. And we get about 4 loaves from that. So that's roughly, for the flour, 32 cents a loaf. The yeast we buy in packets of 8, so we get 4 of these sheets. Each sheet has 2 sachets, so that yields 8 loaves because there's 1 sachet per loaf. So that roughly works, and they're 99 cents for a pack of 8, so that works out at about 12 cents a loaf. And then we put in the salt and oil, and that's the salt is a teaspoon per loaf, and the oil is to a tablespoon per loaf. So like the cost per loaf is almost negligible if you're considering buying it by salt by the 750 gram bottle and oil by the litre. So like you're talking 5 cents for a loaf for salt and 1 cent for the oil. So it's almost negligible. But anyway, adding it all together and rounding it up, it comes at about 50 cents a loaf in terms of ingredients. So on the face of it, that seems good, because the cheapest loaf you'll get here would be about €1, and that would be for the cheap loaves, the budget loaves. Decent quality loaf we're getting for €1.50 to €2. So you think you're actually you're getting. It does seem on the face of it to be cheaper. So the big question is electricity. So what I'm going to do is, for this video, test that using the old meter there. So I've got it set to kilowatt hours, and I'm going to start up the bread maker and see how much electricity it uses. The first thing I will say is I don't actually use the built-in programs. There's about 27 built-in programs for different types of bread. I prefer just to stop that. To just knead it for 15 minutes and then come and bake it. So that's what I'm going to do. So there it is. There's the mixture. I will start her up. I'll press knead. Oh. There we go. There, starts mixing. I don't suspect this motorized phase is going to use up a lot of power, so it's going to take a while for this to register. But I will come back when the loaf is done. I will see how much it used. See you soon. Just a quick little video to show, well, little insert to show what it looks like. Doesn't it look like a brain being kneaded? And currently this phase is using 35 watts. So Not a lot really for something. There's not going to be a huge amount of electricity usage because this is only going to be running for 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. So I will do another little insert when it starts baking, because that's probably when the watts are really going to be used up. Okay, cheers. And here we are back again, and if I open this very gently, you will see it has risen nicely. You have to be very gentle because a knock could cause it to sink. Now technically I should be knocking it out, that's where you punch the dough and knead it again. But I find this works for me. I mean, like we produce bread for speed. No, we don't want artisan bread, we just want decent bread to make the kids sandwiches for lunch and for something to us to eat. So this does the job. So what I'm going to do is put on bake. And I put it in for 15 minutes with a medium crust. Actually, hold on a second. Yeah, I'll do. I'll put it in a dark crust. I kind of like it. Still nothing's registered on the kilowatt hour meter. So far it's used less than 100 watts. 0.10 of a kilowatt hour. So that's what I expected. It's the motor phase where it needs the bread isn't going to use a lot of power. So I will start this, and I'll see you again in 50 minutes. And here we are, the finished item. Apologies for the noise in the background, that's the washing machine churning away, but yeah, there it is. It's a pretty decent looking loaf. You get about 12 or 13 slices out of that if you sliced it fine enough. Yeah, and it's very nice bread, to be honest with you. Decent crust. Perfect for cutting for sandwiches. So, what's the power consumption? Well, as you can see here, it used 0.3 kilowatt hours. I'm going to round it up to 0.4 kilowatt hours. And here's the sums. We pay 24 cents per kilowatt hour here, which is actually quite high by Irish standards, but we're on a flexible tariff. So, 0.4 kilowatt hours equals 4 times 0.0024, so I've divided our kilowatt hour tariff by 10, so 0.024 for every tenth of a kilowatt hour. That equals 0.096, I'll round that up to 10, so in total we pay 60 cents euro to bake a loaf of bread, which I think is very competitive with the price you pay in a store, which is about €1 for a cheap loaf, or 1.50 €2 for a decent loaf. Now you may say, well, that's not as big as a commercial loaf, but the thing is, this is quite a lot more dense. You feel the weight of it. It's a lot heavier than a loaf you buy in a store, because in stores they're trying to make the same loaf with less and less ingredients, so they fluff it up with air and all sorts of chemicals and God knows what else, and maybe not chemicals, but they've got various processes that their scientists develop. So, and I have found that this kind of a home-baked loaf, one slice of this satisfies you in the same way that 2 or 3 slices of a commercial loaf will satisfy you. It's just fills you more easier. So it's a much nicer loaf. It's more satisfying, and it fills you faster. I've definitely noticed that. So one of these does a family of 4 about a day. So we'll cut off a few slices for the kids for lunch. I'll take a slice in for my lunch, and what's left over we'll have for a snack in the evening. It works out very nicely. Now, so there you go, 60 cents to bake a loaf. Now you probably say, well, what about ovens? Well, the problem with ovens is I can't accurately measure how much power they use. We do have a smart meter, but it measures everything in the house. We can't actually isolate the oven, and because it's wired in directly to the mains, thanks to the ring circuit we have here, I can't test it. What I do know is it does use at least 1.5 kilowatts, and the home oven is a very inefficient way of cooking, because the bread maker, if you open it up, has a heating element at the bottom there. It's very small, and it's designed to heat just one loaf, whereas the oven is a big open space, and it takes a lot more energy to heat a big space than it does to heat a small space, so it's inherently inefficient. So unless you're baking several loaves at once that fill all the space, you're going to be wasting money on the oven. There is one other way we cook bread, and that's using a slow cooker, or as in the States they're more commonly known as a crock pot. Our crock pot, or slow cooker, when it's on high setting, uses 200 watts. which would be a lot less than this, because this actually uses 650 watts when the element is on. And that's not on constantly because there's a thermostat that switches it on and off, and you hear the relay clicking it on and off as you're baking. I have absolutely no doubt the slow cooker would be a lot more efficient, but the byproduct is the slow cooker doesn't get a nice crust like this. It cooks the bread, but I like the crust. I do really like the crust. My kids hate it, which means that they have their sandwiches and they come home with crusts, and I get yummy, yummy crusts. So yeah, so there you go. And of course, if you've got a wood burning stove, you'll save even more. But for the purposes of a family, you know, this was €60. Assuming we say 40 cents per day, 40 cents in every loaf we buy, doesn't it? No, that means it's 100 loaves saves us, €40, another 50. So 150 loaves means we're actually in profit with this over commercial bread, assuming you buy the cheap stuff. If you buy better quality bread, you make the saving quicker. So there you go. A bread maker is a really good investment. And it makes really nice bread. There you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Cheers. Take care. Bye. Bye. Bye.